All right. Good morning. Good evening. Happy all-time highs.
Happy huge all-time highs, man. Like happy Bitcoin discovery, technically.
Yeah. So what are we now? Around that 118, 119. So I always think that the big round psychological numbers,
Mm,
I wouldn't say important. I don't know quite what word to use with them, but they're there. So this
mm.
120,000. I think that that's going to be an important level for us to break to
Think
uh
so.
to kick on.
Well, technically, 120 is the next round number.
Yeah.
Is the closer round number. So either breaks or that will act as a psychological resistance in a way. You know what I mean? And then who knows, right? Like this is the exciting part of price discovery, man. Like, oh man, here we are. Uh,
It certainly is. I mean, this is on the weekly, and what I really like is the strength and size of these candles. That's a perfect retest on the weekly, and then look at that. Woof. We're on again. But if we have a look at the daily, we're just starting to,
mm,
you know, like whether we see a little bit of sideways action around this 119 for a few days,
mm.
who knows? But
Mm,
yeah, I think that that's a nice big psychological number to get past. And then, yeah, after that, you could call up logarithmic growth curves, curves
yep.
even, if you know what I mean. But I'm sure that Scott would take a shotgun to you and tell you. But you can call up those things and kind of, try and forecast where we are in the cycle. But, ultimately, who knows? It's like the question I think that's worth asking is like, where's the greatest risk to reward? Is it in
Mm-hmm.
Bitcoin, you know,
Mm-hmm.
or is it
Mm-hmm.
in the alts? Because
Mm-hmm.
the alts have, I don't know if underperformed is the right word, but they've been kind of dominant. They haven't really dominant, sorry, dormant. They haven't really done anything yet. There's so much room that they have got to run. Mhm.
Definitely. Yeah, definitely, definitely. And that's where I'm at the moment, right? So in terms of where do you find those good sort of movers, right? Like because yeah, definitely if Bitcoin decides to stay with at these levels, then we're going to have a lot of capital inflow, right, into alts or
Mm.
into Ethereum or into new projects. So this is when people actually go risk on into different narratives and things like that. So now that we are at all-time highs, we just start, tracking what's hot, kind of, you know what I mean? And that's kind of that's gonna be our game, right? In the next couple of months. For how long that's gonna last? That's the question, right? Like that's kind of where we at in terms of the market, right? But I do
Mm.
have some theories, some thesis behind different things. So yeah.
Yeah, I mean, somewhere along the way, I gathered some information from some random on the back of a envelope. Um, the price discoveries with the Bitcoin, they generally last around sort of a month to 6 weeks or so, with those last couple of weeks
Mm,
being, the biggest gains, but the most dangerous part of this phase. So then I suppose the question is, what technically starts that first week? Like if we broke into price discovery on Friday of last week, then I think probably you need to count that as week one, even though it was only, sort of one day. But, this is all very loose talk, just trying to put some kind of lasso around it. It doesn't go up forever. So even
mhm.
though it's exciting, you need to immediately jump onto, right, what's my risk? What's my exposure? Because you know all the heuristics that Scott will come out with. He'll
Mhm.
start telling you things like, once you think you can't lose, you're fucked. Take half your money off the table. As soon as you
Yeah.
get that feeling, I can't lose. I can't
Yep.
lose. Just take half your money, um, straight away. So
Mm.
certainly, in some of the alts, some of the longer term positions that I've got, I'll be looking to take some profits, hopefully
Hmm.
next in the next couple of weeks. And
Mm.
anybody on the call that's running the DGen account, they're pretty much locked in long now, and yeah, yeah. Let's see. Let's see what they can do. So
Yeah. So
this week, well, I think we're boarding the spaceship. Definitely, Michael. We're definitely on the spaceship.
I know it's exciting in a way, but obviously this is when it gets tricky, right? Because obviously a
Mm.
lot of things have pump and a lot of things haven't. So let's start looking at the charts because this is a really interesting aspect and just building a thesis around Bitcoin. But before I go into charts, I just want to see where you guys at. Would you buy Bitcoin today? I just want to ask you guys, would you buy Bitcoin today? Or if you don't buy Bitcoin, do you have anything particular that you in terms of buying? Yeah, hype, Jupe, heat. Okay,
Oh
more
yeah,
hype.
I forgot to even mention ETH. So, what did ETH weekly close at? Because it was just under the 3,000, wasn't it?
XRP.
Yeah.
Jeez, it's a lot of XRP. Uh,
That's the other
okay.
thing as well, is like ETH has really kept pace with BTC on this breakout.
Mm, mm-hmm.
Hi Ian, why is hype not a position in my FinRev on Bybit? So, I don't know, Trevor. I, I don't know.
Tau. Yeah, Tau is good. Like it. It's yeah, all right. Let's jump into what
Hmm.
let's jump into my charts and things like that and theories and you know spill a thesis around this thing. Let me just share my screen. Give me 1 second.
All right.
All right, let's have a look. Got some stuff here. Okay, let's have a look at Bitcoin, of course, right? So obviously now all those levels, all those things that we sort of been drawing for a while. Now, kind of that's it. Like all those levels are the price action that lead us here, right? That led us to being in all-time high. So now we are in freaking all all all-time high. So where is this thing's gonna go, right? Is this gonna go to 120, 150, 175, 200, right? Or this is going to retrace, or this is same old that we always do in terms of theories, right? In terms of you know what what's the percentage of things that Bitcoin will do this or will range or will dump. You know, the only thing that I'm seeing differently this time around is that there is a lot of capital inflow from treasuries, right? And from inflow like here, ETF and all the sort of stuff. So that's actually really positive with Bitcoin. So the problem right now is that I don't think that, and this is I'm speculating, right? I don't think that Bitcoin will behave the same way that it used to behave in last cycles, right? So take it from that perspective that there is you know, a lot of people think that Bitcoin will might do this, like all-time highs, and they start dumping, and then you do, same old, same old, same old. The main difference that I see right now is the amount of capital inflows that Bitcoin has in terms of treasuries. More companies like, the Saylor, Michael Saylor and all those companies are keep buying Bitcoin for treasuries. And another thing that I'm seeing fundamentally is that a lot of fund managers are being pushed to have some exposure, risk exposure to Bitcoin. Okay, so why? Because more treasuries, more companies are like on Nasdaq are actually getting more, raising capital and getting Bitcoin. Here in Australia, there's like 3 or 4 companies doing the same thing as well. So this narrative is getting hotter. So with that being said, that's the main fundamental shift that I've seen, that we haven't had that type of influx on previous cycles, previous all-time highs, right? So previous all-time highs, it was very sort of speculative still. ETF wasn't that, it wasn't that strong in a way, right? But now the way that I see Bitcoin is that it's behaving more like a regular asset class. So it's becoming from a risk asset into a stock type of behavior or index type of behavior, right? So with that being said, right, the interesting thing is this going to fluctuate? What is the bottom of this, right? What is the pullback, right? A lot of people are waiting for pullbacks, right? Like, I wouldn't pay like 120,000 on Bitcoin. But if you think it from the I've been asking some friends around that manage funds and things like that, and they sort of being pushed to getting risk on Bitcoin at some level, right? Even at 1% of 0.5% of portfolio managers, they want some exposure. So what that might do is that we might start seeing like really shallow pullbacks, right? Shallow pullbacks. So any sort of pullbacks in terms of small timeframes, more than likely will be for buying, right? So that's kind of my behavior in terms of what I'm setting up for Bitcoin, right? Because what else do you trade on? Like right now, the only thing you can do technical analysis, of course, and then you start seeing support and resistance and things like that. But then at the end of the day, is what people are willing to pay for this thing, and that's what price discovery is all about, right? If people are willing to pay 120, then these things will keep moving all the way up to 150. Simple as that, right? So how do we monitor that? It's quite tough in a way, because obviously at some point people will take profits, but will that generate a new sort of liquidity that new buyers will come in, right? And then obviously if we start seeing in small time frames behaviors like this, let me just this is the 6 hours sort of deal, but it's ranging like from the breakout, right, which happened on Friday, on Thursday, right, is actually ranging. That's kind of a range, right? The range that I'm monitoring technically, right, from here, from 120 to, that's kind of my first area value. And I think there's a lot of people looking at the same thing, because obviously that's the only thing that you can actually see in charts, right? So let's have a look of open interest and things like that to see what else can we make out of this price action in terms of open interest and things like that. So there we go. Okay, let me just duplicate this. And let me go chart.
Here we go. Now we'll see the magic.
There you go. Okay. So here's where we're at. And this is when things are going to get interesting. So I've been saying for a while to monitor the spot buying, right? The spot volume. And we can actually see that right here is when the spot is coming in. What that means is people like ETFs or treasuries or, big inflows come in and start buying Bitcoin. And technically, we're seeing that they haven't sold yet. Okay, so this is kind of the thing that I'll be tracking in sort of small time frames. And usually if we are getting a pullback, right, I'm going to start seeing spot selling, right? If we start seeing spot selling, then we might see a little bit of an influx on open interest, driving price a little bit up, and then we might see a little bit of a push, right? And the interesting thing is, which I did mention last week prior the breakout, right, is that you do have a lot of shorts. Like this is a really, from a short, people that want to short Bitcoin, they like hawks trying to say, all right, this is the price now to short, and they start shorting. And what that does, if it's more Bitcoin, more spot buying power is coming in, then you get these sort of liquidations to the upside. And that creates more liquidity for Bitcoin to continue to the upside. Okay, so it's a really tricky situation because if you start seeing a lot of shorts piling up, but the spot volume not following through, more than likely is going to have continuation. And this is what I mean, continuation until what price? Who knows? I have no idea, right? This could be like 120, could be our next psychological level. 125, 130, 140, 145, right? So obviously this is when things will get interesting, right? But that doesn't mean that we should not be risk on some alts at this stage, right? So as long Bitcoin remains stable, what I mean stable is on ranging, right? Even to 112, right? If I'm seeing Bitcoin doing this, there is a highly likelihood that alts will catch up at some point, right? And that's kind of the game that we play with alts, right? So that's kind of my first thesis in terms of what I'm seeing and why Bitcoin might, and this is just can you hear me?
The camera is here.
All right, yeah, my camera just so this is the reason why I'm saying that Bitcoin might behave a little bit different this time around, and this is just a thesis, you know what I mean? And that's something that is good to know in terms of what's different from this cycle to the next cycle, right? Last week I was talking about seasonality, right? And there was a lot of speculation on Twitter about seasonality around summer in US right now. Bitcoin never performs, like it never breaks out or anything like that. Things will start like after the summer, and lo and behold, things are just getting faster. You know what I mean? So obviously what happened in the past, that doesn't mean it needs to happen in the future. It gives a guidance, but then if you think about it from the perspective of what type of inflows we have in Bitcoin, right? Then it's just different. The amount of capital that it used to be in different cycles is a different type of capital that we have as of today, right? We have ETF, we have treasuries, we have more people interested into these things. So that's kind of been my thesis around now, how far are we going to get down, if we do get down, right? So let's talk about possibilities. How many of you think that we're going to keep doing something like this? Let's say you'll keep breaking up even farther than 124. Give me a number. How many of you think that could happen? Yep. Yeah, definitely could happen, right? But now, how many of you think that this is going to play out like this in the next couple of weeks? Fifty-fifty, yes, some of you. All right. And how many of you think that Bitcoin might do something like this? lower chance, all right? And how many of you think that Bitcoin will do this? I saw someone saying that 100K will be a support, so it might do this around 100K and then just do this,
I
right?
mean, that would suck.
And why will suck? Like, you know what I mean? Like this is kind of the behavior of what crypto has done to us, and that it's all like, you know, in one direction only, right? But then markets need the think about it from the perspective that markets need to cool off, they need to gather liquidity, they need to attract new buyers, they need to, you know what I mean, like things like need to move in order for things to break out further. Okay, that's something that I've learned in any market on, and this is kind of where I'm at, right? This is where we're at. Like this is where the first push comes, right? That's why I haven't sort of gone nuts in terms of buying alts, because I could be completely wrong, but I need to go through what I know. You know what I mean? And what I know is markets usually need to gather liquidity, right? You need shorts here in order to pump, and you need longs here in order for shorts to get out. And you know, they need that. That's what a market is all about, right? Buying our sellers and finding this new range, finding this new price. At this moment, we are in price discovery, of course, but we haven't found the value of Bitcoin. What is what, you know what I mean? Like if we go back, and this is kind of where I'm at, right? If we go back, let's go back last
Sorry, Maurizio, I just need to
yep.
answer the door. You're on your own for 2 minutes.
Yeah, go ahead, man. So let's talk about where we were on the last breakout, and that happened on November, right? November 7th. So on November 7th, we had a huge breakout, right? And this is November 7th was Trump. I think it was Trump. Yeah, I think Trump. So after November 7, right, there was influx, there was capital, there was choppiness, but then we started finding his range, finding his value, finding his low. And then it looks like we had this pullback, and that's when everybody started buying. And that's the sort of last lower price that we had prior the all-time highs, right? So we're talking about 74, okay? So that's what I mean in terms of the market needs to discover what the new value will look like, all right? And can this go straight up into 150 and then find that the new value might be, Shia, 150, and then the new value will be 135, and then we'll range like this. Can this happen? Of course, anything can happen, right? So obviously this is why it's so exciting in a way. But trading all-time highs, you know, a lot of people think, oh, trading all-time highs is actually pretty cool. But, you know, finally we're here, but then trading, especially with leverage, then it gets tricky, right? So that's kind of where I'm at. But the only thing that we can do is build our thesis, see how we go, and then just track price action on a daily basis to see how the influx of capital is flowing. How are we getting supported? Are we not getting supported? So that's kind of what we're tracking at the moment. Okay, but if you ask me, this thing looks pretty freaking good, man. Like this price action, it looks pretty good. The fact that we haven't actually dropped at all, right? That means there is a lot of buying power here. Okay. Obviously, like every single weekend, I gotta be aware that, you know, this pump here, especially the last day, happened over the weekend. Okay. This is over the weekend. So this is retail. There's no institutional buying here. So I just have to be a little bit more cautious in buying right now. Right. If we come down by the end of the week, you know, on Wednesday, let's say, and we start seeing that these values hold, then it gives me a little bit more confidence that could be a new level than institutions, or, you know, or the like other participants are willing to buy, not only retail. Okay, that's kind of where I'm at, right? In terms of Bitcoin. Okay, so is it okay? How do you trade market when you are all-time highs? Is it scary up here? I'm worried about people taking profits and taking my position. Yeah, that's exactly what it is, man. That's exactly what it is. So, but essentially, things that you have to be mindful of is that not everything is at all-time highs. It's only Bitcoin hype. I'm gonna go through a few things that are all-time highs, right? So what that means is if we have continuation on all-time highs, then it could be a lot of potential alts that it will play catch up. Okay, and I think that's what the game is at the moment. A lot of people are that could be sidelines. You know, they just waiting to deploy capital on alts. There's some alts that are going nuts, and some alts that not doing anything. But that doesn't mean that they're not going to do anything. But it could mean that also they're going to not do anything at all in this cycle, right? And if we keep talking about cycles and things like that. I don't know about cycles anymore, man. Like, because things are playing so differently for the last couple of months that that I do think that we definitely going to have a lot of influence on alts, but that's going to be a little bit more narrow in terms of rotations and narratives and things like that. Let's see if that actually plays out, but we just have to be open to every single possibility out there, right? And that's what trading is all about, right? What's the possibilities of this going? Like, if your possibilities, your thesis, your data, everything that you see supports that things that Bitcoin will get up to 150, then that's your thesis, right? But if you do see a highly likelihood that we're going to have a pullback, then what's supported. If you ask me what's your thesis behind the pullbacks, and if you show me the data or stuff like that, then it will be good. You know what I mean? So that's kind of how you build your thesis around all-time highs, right? So that's kind of what I'm seeing. What is my thesis around? Cumulative volume, right? In terms of if this price is being sustained by spot buyers. If I'm start seeing spot buying going low, then more than likely you're gonna have a pullback, right? How far of pullback? Let's see when the new spot buyers, the new buyers are coming in. It's not simple. Could I be wrong? And this could go 150 only on leverage. Yeah, it could, right? But then at the end of the day, you need to respect. That's how I trade all-time highs, right? So yeah, that's just to answer your question. So with that being said, right? Assuming that we're going to remain in this range, right? Let's have a look at Ethereum, and let's have a look at Ethereum, because Ethereum looks pretty freaking good. So Ethereum looks, even though it has not been able to break, right? Usually, or this is what tends to happen as well in terms of crypto markets, right? Like you get the Bitcoin, then you get the rotation into Ethereum or even Solana, and then that's when alts start going nuts, and that's when I want to start getting position. So we already started getting position prior the breakout, and that's why we started positions, and we're gonna go through the positions. And I'm glad, and I'm really happy that we got Pengu. If you've seen Pengu is fucking killing it. I'll go through that. So that trade was actually a pretty good trade. But yeah, but in terms of Ethereum, what I'm looking is just to see if this level holds. Let's see if Bitcoin holds, and more than likely I'm going to start getting position on some alts, right? Especially ETH betas. Why? Because ETH seems to be the one that is holding. If I look at Ethereum against Bitcoin, right? We were, still tracking this. It takes time to play out, but then when we start seeing a breakout around, that box that we drew a while back, right? Then I'll be more risk on ETH. And if you have a look at Solana against ETH, ETH ETH seems to be getting stronger and stronger. That doesn't mean that Solana will not go up, but that means that more than likely Ethereum will get a little bit of you will play a little bit on catch up. Okay, so yeah, that's kind of like the overall look in terms of being all-time highs, right? So Todd, can you all right, yeah, you can go wrong with 50%. Yeah, definitely when you start taking profits, man. I think on hindsight, I took a lot of profits on Pengu prior, like took too many profits. But then let me show you why I took 70% instead of 50%. Which now sometimes is half. Sometimes they're right, sometimes they're not, but at least you make money on both. As simple as that. I will make more money if I didn't take anything. But if the if the trade retraces, then you'll be, man, I didn't take any profit. So anyway, that's kind of the overall look on the macros: Bitcoin, Ethereum, Solana. Let's have a look at Solana, because Solana is not doing anything, but it's not dropping. Okay, so that's another thing that you need to be aware of. So if it doesn't do anything but holds, at some point, I do expect continuation, right? And this continuation could happen at any moment, any day, right? And then if we do have continuation, then Solana will definitely start getting a lot of traction, right? But at the moment, with the price action that we're seeing, Ethereum looks like is going to break first. So that's kind of a little bit important, because we need to, in terms of the thesis that we're building, right? Obviously, we see a lot of narratives coming into play, and capital transitioning from narrative to narrative. So if we catch the narratives right, if we start seeing narratives right, then we can actually rotate our capital several times, and that's when we make a lot of money. Okay, so that's kind of where the main reason why the spaghetti multiple sectors, I built this one. If we have time, we can just show you quickly how to build it. So that's kind of where I'm at the moment. Okay, let's talk about our positions. Okay, so Hype, obviously, Hype is just killing it, of course. Like now we're in price discovery on Hype, right? So where's Hype is going to go? Give me a target, guys. Like tell me what do you guys think about Hype, and how far this thing could go? Like
Still relatively low volatility there on the ATR.
Yeah, it's dropping as this is keep coming out. Let me just remove this just to make a clear picture. We have all-time highs right here. This is the highest high that broke this level here a while back, and now we just broke the 49 and touched 50. No, hasn't touched 50 yet. But this is a pretty cool, like this is where a lot of people actually start buying. We start buying since the beginning, right? So we've been buying Hype for a while. So we just have to be cognizant of, if we start seeing a little bit of weakness on Bitcoin, then it would not be a bad idea to start stacking some profits on Hype. You know what I mean? And then obviously, once you stake profits, then you can either move your stop loss. Depends if you have a spot, or if you have this position on perps. But for me, I'll be holding my spot for a while. Maybe I'm with Scott around 70s, around 80. Start taking some profits a little bit about that, and then just holding half. That could be a good plan. So that's kind of where we're at on Hype. Let's talk about Uni. So in Uni, it is breaking Bob, so we're still pretty good on this position. So Uni is actually pretty good. My first sort of target to start taking profits around these highs right here, around the around $10 mark, take some profits, move the stop loss. And then if we are on a real bull market, more than likely this will just keep going to all-time highs, right? So there's no, especially because we're running these on leverage, right? Once you take some profit, then you're sort of compounding into more gains. So what that means is, let's say you this position is working, then you take some profits around 10, you move your stop loss, and now you have an extra 50% of capital that you can actually allocate to other token. As this going up, that's how leverage accounts get built. And it's actually, if this comes back down, then you already took 50% profit, or 70 or 30 or whatever, right? And there's no loss, right? There's no loss whatsoever. So obviously you didn't, if market doesn't move in the way that we want the market to move, then we'll be okay. So that's kind of the plan of Uni. So this trade is actually working pretty good. ARB, somebody mentioned about ARB. ARB still really good, man. Like, try to break over the prior to the weekend, try to actually break these levels here. I expected this one to be a little bit more stronger, but the fact of the matter is that Bitcoin is sort of still in the show at the moment. Okay, so as you can see, Ethereum is not doing as great, but once Bitcoin start normalizing, if it doesn't crash, more than likely all Ethereum betas are going to keep moving to the upside. And we're pretty well positioned on these ones, to be honest. So ARB, same deal, around here, around probably 55 cents, we'll start taking some profits, move the stop loss, and then if we do have continuation, then we do have a massive upside, right? Even to these levels here, that's a huge upside. Okay, so this one, it's looking good, man. It's looking really, really good, right? AI16 set. AI16 set will still good on our both positions, are higher risk and a lower risk. So this one is doing fantastically well. So where I'm at this one, same deal. I think this one I'm gonna let it run a little bit higher. This is the previous high. And in terms of the AI16 set, this is when they launched the new ecosystem and things like that. So this is kind of my first target area to take some profits, move the stop loss, and then, if AI starts catching up again, I will say this one at least will go back to level like $1 area, get some more profits there, and keep moving the stop loss to the upside. You know what I mean? Like the good thing is we managed to get really good positions prior Bitcoin pumping, right? I didn't go all in. Why? Because we didn't know that Bitcoin was going to pump or break out, right? So that's kind of the game. ENA, where we are in ENA is doing great as well. We're very well positioned on ENA. And ENA is one of those ones that actually tends to do really, really well with market pumps. And the reason why is the way that the protocol works, right? It works really well with funding rates. So when market pumps, right, leverage increases, and then ENA being the protocol that maintains the USDE stablecoin, then it has to perform well. As simple as that, it has to. But if we have a market, if the market starts so dumping, then obviously this one will get affected quite heavily. So I really like this one. This one is doing great. Same thing. My first target of profits will be around 50 cents as well, and then we'll look for some continuation. And who knows? Maybe we'll get all-time highs. Maybe we'll break above all-time highs, and there's no risk. You already took some profits, and then everything is free. In a way, nothing's free, but everything could be free, right? But Pengu, let's have a look at Pengu. Look at this, nice. How many of you got on Pengu? This is the best trade that we ever done. Like this is kind of the best trade that we did since Dodge last cycle. So man, there's no freaking words. The only thing in hindsight is that I took so many profits around this area, right? I took 70% here, I moved the stop loss. The reason why I did that was like this one moved really quick. And if Bitcoin decided not to break up, more than likely would have just come down. But then now we have market strength. And, on the 30% I'm still holding on leverage, right? So I do see that this one could actually have all-time highs pretty freaking soon. So pretty well positioned on this one. Unfortunately, not as on hindsight, I would have taken 50%, but I just, prior Bitcoin, I thought Bitcoin wasn't going to break, to be honest. Like it was like I was very cautious on that. And because we had all these positions, that's why it's take 30%. So man, if you're on this one, great, man. Fantastic. This is kind of where with everything gets paid off, right? And now we have no risk. Would I get position if you did not enter where we enter, which was around here, right? Tough to say where will be a new entry. You know what I mean? Like because the mindset for this trade what now is completely risks off. I might think about adding more perhaps to see if we have continuation of Bitcoin and if we have all-time highs on this one. Maybe I will add more into this one, but then yeah, this is kind of on my winning my winning trade. So this is kind of this is just to give you an idea where we are with the positions, and just want to highlight a few things that I'm looking to get into. Okay, so all right, so what I'm looking, right, there is a bunch of stuff that Filecoin is doing great as well. So Filecoin it did great. That's I just have this one on spot, but it keeps doing well, man. I think I'm gonna add more when we start seeing breakouts, right? And that could be this could actually get to all-time highs, which it could give us roughly about an extra 105% to the upside, right? And if this breaks, who knows? Price discovery on freaking Filecoin, right? Who knows? Can that thing get to $5 to $10? Who knows, man? Like who knows where these things can get? But let me just highlight a few interesting things that I'm watching. So I don't know if you know, but Pump.fun actually got this new token, which is and now is being released. You can actually trade it. You can actually trade on Hyperliquid, by the way. So I'm watching Pump closely, right? And have in mind there is a lot of speculations on this one. This could get really risky. There's not a lot of history, but on bull runs, this type of narratives tend to do pretty well. Okay, so I'm watching this one. I'm watching Pump.fun. I haven't get into a position or anything like that. If we start looking at smaller time frames, I can see this is the listing price when down, and this is on Binance, by the way, and now it's holding these levels here. So that could be a really interesting high risk, high reward play if we have continuation in markets. Then I'm watching at this one here, FHE. All right, and FHE. So this is the time when I don't know if you weren't around last cycle. I was looking at new launches and new VC backup launches that actually did pretty bad on bear markets, but they were good projects with good, good market, not like low market cap, low possibility that people keep selling out here, and the interesting about this one is that this one, just show you, I had it here. Yeah, it's my network is an infrastructure backed AI infrastructure backed by Binance. So, and what tends to happen with these freaking new protocols, right? Like the fully diluted valuation is 72 million with market cap of 18. So, and there's no unlocks for the next 12 months. So this is the type of project that I'll be sort of tracking that on bull runs, it tend to at least go to all-time highs, right? And then from then on, price discovery could be, who knows, right? And so now that they very devaluating in that perspective, right? Then it's good risk reward tokens in a way. I want to hold these for my, what I mean? I don't expect this to be the greatest infrastructure in life. I'm just playing the price action. And this is kind of we did a few trades like that last cycle, and kind of we're doing the same thing pretty much, right? So this is one of them. Another one is KTA as well, that I'm tracking as well. So we have Pump, we have KTA, and we do, it's not here, Launchcoin, right? Launchcoin. I did talk about Launchcoin a while back. So Launchcoin now starts tracking again, right? You can actually start seeing a lot of traction. We can actually see some projects being in the Launchcoin ecosystem and things like that. So this one could be a sort of high risk, high reward as well. So I'm tracking those type of things, right? Which I could see the high. Besides that, all the majors as well. You know what I mean? Like Solana, Jupe could do pretty well as well. And Jupe is one of those things very similar to INA, in where Jupe actually benefits for market bumps, because Jupe, being an ecosystem, and if people start buying Solana tokens and things like that, Jupe is going to do well in revenue, and that's when things are getting very, very interesting with Jupe. Same thing with JTO. So JTO and Cloud are sort of staking things for Solana. So I would expect JTO and Cloud do really well once Solana starts breaking out, right? But Jupe will be sort of the first catalyst for me to see if is there any attention on the Solana ecosystem. Jupe and Ray, which basically the same thing, Ray USDT. So let me just add this one as well. Okay, so that's in terms of the Jupe ecosystem. And besides that, I'm tracking Bonk. Freaking Bonk, man. I was tracking it and I didn't get into. So Bonk is kind of, I don't know. I was waiting for a pullback. And that's the thing. Sometimes you wait for pullbacks, pullbacks never come, and then this thing starts going away. And you can either accept the fact and start buying here, and be aware that we could have a really interesting pullback at some point, right? Or just move on to another token, man. There's plenty of opportunities right there that we can appreciate in value. So yeah, that's it, guys. That's obviously it's going to be a lot of work these next couple of weeks, because obviously tracking new projects and things like that, things could get really interesting really fast, as long Bitcoin holds its value, right? So that's when the spaghetti charts and start tracking the sectors will be very beneficial. So yeah, we're still tracking RWA seems to be doing really good. Everything seems to be doing really good, to be honest. There's nothing that stands out to me, right? The only thing that stands out is kind of layer ones. So XLM, say ADA, believe it or not, ADA, SUI, XRP, all the stuff. So I'll be sort of, looking into these ones a little bit more. Besides that, that's pretty much it, guys. So there's a lot of opportunities, but then that's how we can play it. So yeah.
Excellent. What a call.
Yeah, man.
Pump for this week, man. Pam for this week. No, for more details on that Maverick program, it's a case of joining their call and listening to the thing from there. But if it's something that Scott recommends, then it's something worth taking a look at. All right, nice. I'll see you in the group then.
All right, guys. Have a good day. Okay.
Ta-da.